we at dormakaba, we don't have a single female engineer globally. Oh, I think there's one in Australia, and that's a global kind of scale of kind of 16,000 employees. But I think in the UK, you're talking about sales, and the more technical and kind of more Internet of Things types products have more females within those sales teams. So the actual, so our lodging business, which is, predominantly kind of very technical and so the type of products that it is kind of linked, highly linked to other products. It's very kind of networked, and it's less traditional than, say, kind of the mechanical key systems or your door hinges or something like that. So actually that emergence on that side of females being much more interested, like we discussed earlier, is kind of, I think is coming through more and more. But I do agree with there is much more men at a higher level, and trying to then have that voice at that higher level is a difficult thing to navigate. And I actually chose to have my children later so that I could be at a certain point before going to have children.
Established, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Established before that.
Established in your career where you wanted to be, and know that actually you might have to have stall your career for a few years while you're having the children and bringing them up, because my kids are very young, so it is it's as we were speaking about earlier, it's very difficult to kind of juggle it all. So I think it's having that support, and I think I've been lucky with coming back to work and having kind of the flexibility that I do have, the kind of encouragement and that type of thing, that it's not necessarily
culturally, it's not in the industry, is it?
And I think that's it. I think it's not necessarily what you get from your employer, it's what support you can get and what kind of the environment is that you have, rather than what you can actually get back from them when you go back after maternity, I would say.
I'm really lucky because, again, small family business, so it's a little bit more flexible, but it was very easy for me to change my working patterns to accommodate having children. So I'd work 4 days a week and swap with my partner in terms of childcare and that kind of thing. But it's the flexibility when you need to deal with emergencies and that kind of stuff. But culturally, it sounds like dormakaba is absolutely on the right track, and it's how do we this kind of event, but how do we get that culturally into every company that's in the industry?
And I think there's definitely a willingness and a want from companies to improve things. I think it's all about getting the right balance as well, because I think there's some most amazing men in the industry that I've got the pleasure to work with. They've been supportive. I think there's gone are the days in the in the early 90s when it was very stereotypically pushing the boundaries that probably weren't, but that was the world we lived in then. And I think a lot of people have been educated and are learning what is the right way and what the value is of a woman in the industry and the value of a man, because you absolutely need both. You need the right person for the job, I think, as well. But I just think sometimes we just need to understand that we are different biologically, we are different, with our, hormones and things like that. And it's like, but then it's also what I feel for men sometimes, what's okay to say and what's not okay to say in this world of equality, diversion and inclusion. We all want to be inclusive and meet those, but it is a tightrope, particularly for people that have been brought up, from the early ages with bias, because that was the world we knew. So that's a challenge, I think, for everybody in the industry.
Yeah, it shouldn't be such a challenge, I don't think, because it's as a woman, it's just a fact of life, isn't it? That the probability is that you'll have children and you'll have time off, and you will probably be the person that drops your hours or goes part-time. But there is...
it doesn't have to be you, does it?
It doesn't have to be you, but also employers could really help by putting things in place that... because, like you were saying before, you'd made a conscious decision to have children later, but should you have really had to do that? Would a man have had to consciously make that decision? I don't think they would.
I was quite lucky with my second child. My husband, we shared the parental leave because that was quite new at the time, but no one had heard of him doing that before where he worked or where I worked, in fairness. But within 6 months you hear of other people doing it. So again, I think it's just not very well communicated what companies can do to support you to get back into the industry, particularly after you've had children.
I think that obviously COVID had a massive impact on working from home and that kind of thing, and again our emerging technologies enabled us to do that. So we're, you know, even in SafeLock, I'm very keen, we're about to move over to Teams phone instead of a physical landline connection, which I've kind of...
We can sell you one of those.
Yeah, sorry, we already did the procurement on it, but it's...
Big diamonds.
But for me, it's the ability to, where I need to be at home, but still take a technical call into the office, and it's that using those technologies again to help us enable flexibility for women who naturally, like you say, you know, have those additional requirements.
I think COVID's a really good point, actually. I think it's changed a lot
I think
of
it
mindsets.
accelerated everything.
It has accelerated everything, and it's made, you know, I used to work from home and you'd get a look like, oh, you're having a day off. No, but actually people realise when you're working from home, yes, the social side of it's really important and you should have a, you know, a happy hybrid, but working from home you actually get more done. And you probably do it better as well. And I think...
Unless the kids are there.
And the dog's coming. It's a bit like that MP when his kid comes in the walker. So and the Teams. I think at the beginning everyone was just so fed up with Teams. And it was nice to sort of meet people. Yeah. But technology's come on, I think, a lot from COVID as well. I think that pushed, you know, home working and the screens and the, you know, like I say, the Teams, the microphones and the speakers and all the things that go with it.
I do worry a little bit for our industry, and I don't know if it's just us or if it's just everyone, with working times and that accessibility, that we're all slaves to it. Yeah, burnout's rife, and how a company's going to support employees in getting that balance right, because we are so accessible all the time now.
And because it's a 24-hour business as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
So it's,